How to build a Shopify Checkout UI extension in 2023. If you know, Shopify is moving from checkout.liquid, which will become deprecated in August 13, 2024. This is the official page of the checkout.liquid, and you can see the warning. I will show you how to block progress when a certain address is used, and examples of some UI components and where they can be placed at the moment. I say at the moment because in the near future, from what I've seen on GitHub on the Shopify official repository, they want to introduce new locations for components. So what will I go through? How to use the Shopify CLI to generate a checkout UI extensions. How you can customize the checkout. I will proceed with client-side validation example to block progress based on an address, so basically what's in the input. And you can use vanilla JavaScript or React.js. Then I will proceed to introduction to UI components, placement of extension points, and show examples of dynamic placements on the 3 stages of the checkout. So at the moment there are 3 stages of the checkout, but in the near future 1 page checkout will be available, and I think they will at that point show the all things that you placed on those 3 stages will appear on the same page. And placement of extension is at the moment defined by Shopify, so you can't just add at certain locations that you want. You need to add the locations that Shopify allows you. Then app permissions for blocking checkout. So if you want to block progress of the checkout, you need to set access for your app. And you need to do as well for network access if you want to do API calls on external points. But if you want to make API calls to Storefront API, then you need a separate API access. Then we will discuss about web workers, the environment in which the UI extensions are running and the global objects. And finally, how they can do better with checkout UI extensions, what I think they should improve, and what features should they add. So let's go with the CLI. I will add all links in the video description, and I think that I will probably create a repository to store all the examples so you can easily access them and reuse them. And this is how you start with the CLI. I just got this error because I have Node version 17 and it appears that one needs to have version 14, 16 or above 18. Let me use NVM to install version 16. And this time it worked. If you don't know what NVM is, it's a Node version manager, and this is for Mac. I think it's for sure available on Windows too. Let's go to the directory that was generated. Now we need to run npm run generate extension. Now we need to log in the partners account because we need a Shopify partners account. This is very simple to register for. Now it asks us to create this project as a new Shopify app or connect to an existing app. I'll create a new app. And from here we go with the arrow buttons and select Checkout UI. Extension name. And here we have 4 options: TypeScript, JavaScript, TypeScript with React, JavaScript with React. I'll go with JavaScript with React. Now the extension was generated, and we can preview it by running npm run dev. It asks me to check the default store. My default store is this one. I'll choose always by default. And when we're focused on the terminal, we can press P to preview in the browser or Q for quit. Let's press P. And here's the developer console. And by clicking the Checkout UI extension, we will see the preview in our Shopify Partners store. And here we see the default code generated. So this is a extension that was placed on the extension point dynamic. I'll show you afterwards all available extension points. So for blocking the progress, we don't actually need to place any component, because we just return an error type, an object with some error details, and the UI of Shopify will handle that. Now let me show you what code has been generated from the Shopify CLI. And we are interested in extensions folder, and we see the folder checkout UI. That's what we have generated. And where we will write code is in the source directory, index.jsx. And this is the extension point that I was talking about, checkout dynamic render. We import from Shopify Checkout UI Extensions React, and here is the app that handles the dynamic render, the function app. We are using destructuring, object destructuring. If you don't know, it's a recent feature of JavaScript. And we extract the extension point. We also use translate, and this is a Shopify UI component called banner, and here is the text that we place into it, the extension point name. First, let me show you how we can block progress based on the address or other things that you want, maybe some products in the cart. And let's go to the official documentation. This is the main page that shows Shopify checkout options. And here are presented different options that can be done at the moment with Shopify. Checkout UI extensions only cover a few parts from here. There are other parts that you can do with functions and other options. So let's go to client-side validation. This is an example where they show a validation based on a component. But to make things simpler, we will not use another component. We will just use the available form that's being generated by Shopify and access the address. So here's what is covered in this tutorial presented by Shopify. They show how to create UI extension, run the extension locally, set up the extension point capabilities, render text field. We won't use the text field, but we will use the buyer journey intercept to perform validation, block progress, and pass an error to the checkout UI. So this is what we will do now. Then they also have an option to check if you have the ability to block progress. This is a configuration that I will tell you more. You have mainly 3 configuration options that I talked previously: blocking progress, network access, and Storefront API access. Then they show how to deploy code to Shopify. These are the requirements. And a good thing that they have examples in React and plain JavaScript. Here's the example that I present. We're interested in user buyer journey and on the return object. User buyer journey, this interception needs to always return something, whether it is an object with behavior block or with behavior allow. If you don't return both objects, you will get an error. The checkout page might crash. I've had this experience and I didn't know why it was happening. Then I saw that it's required to return block or allow. So we are interested in this return object. I think it's here somewhere. And then we have the options based on which we want to return block or allow. Here they are showing the age validation based on their component. And here's the text field that they are creating, the text field component. And here you can click and see the JavaScript example. If you don't know React, you can use JavaScript. Here's the buyer journey interception. And here's the configuration. Here are the capabilities which are required to set block progress. So you need to set block progress to true so you can have access to the user buyer journey interception functionality. And an important thing with my example will be to have access. The app actually needs to have access to the address. So if you don't have access on the app for address, you will get undefined with JavaScript and you will get an error with React. Let me show you how you can request from the app that you created, request access. You need to go to your partner's account, to the store, app setup, and browse and scroll down. And here you have enable network access in checkout UI extension. If you need network access, you need to request access. Storefront API, sales channel, event subscription, protect customer data access, here we'll need to request access for our example. Then click select. Why I need to use protected customer data. Let's select store management. Save. We need the address. Store management. Click save. And now we have access to the address. Let's go to the app and get the address data. Let us use the example presented by Shopify so we can get started quickly. Let's save and let's run it and see what it generates. It's running already. Let me check quickly the permissions because if we need to make changes on the configuration, we need to run dev again. But we don't need to run dev again in case we make changes. To this file. Sometimes it might happen that you need to restart because some changes might not appear, but that's rare. And in the future it shouldn't even appear because they'll probably make improvements. Yes, we need to modify to make access to the block, to request access for blocking access. Save, go back to the terminal and run dev again. Press P. Made it work. Let's try 17. And here we see the error, you're not legally old enough. So we made it work. This is the page for all Checkout UI Extension APIs. Let's go to Standard API. And we're interested in the address. Shipping address. Add it in VS Code. And here's how we use it. We call the use shipping address. And console.log it in the function to see if we have access to the address. And we see the address logged. But let's see if we have access to the data after the button is being clicked. So yeah, if the click is if it's clicked, we get the fresh data. Let me just double check. Yes, after we click we see the address. So what we want to do is now remove the component text field and just show the error from the buyer journey based if certain condition is matched. So let's remove unused stuff. Try Brooklyn, not allowed. So this is how this works with the buyer interception. You can block progress based on your terms, and you can show the error message. Now let me show you the UI components and the extension points. So when you are on the customizing Shopify checkout, you can go to the custom banners, and this is a use case for components. This is an example of how components are used. But let me show you what these things mean. They are called extension points, and at the moment of recording the video, these are the allowed places where you can add components. You have the top part, which can be dynamic render. And this is shown for the mobile version, but on desktop, if we would add for the cart part, it would appear here. And if you click here, it will scroll to the... Actually, I think it's showing different examples. So you can click for information, shipping, payment, order summary, shop pay, order status. So those are the places where you can add the components. Before we move to globals, let me show you the components available so far. These are the components available so far for actions, feedback, forms, interactive, media. I've requested for a video object and other. Then we have overlays, structure, titles and text. And these are utilities, the style helper. I think it's used for styles based on the basically responsive styles, conditional value. And let us use the example presented by Shopify for the banner. We won't use, in this example, user settings. So if you want to make components customizable from the control panel, basically like the JSON version for building sections, if you have worked with themes, you know you can add custom sections and you can have components on those sections and based on the user input. And let's go to the banner component to see the properties. And if you click on the property, it will show you the available options. Another thing that we need to do is to add this extension point to our configuration, and that's in Shopify UI extension.toml. You go here, add a comma and another string, save. And now, because we have made changes to the configuration, we need to run dev on the terminal. Let me try to run reset, maybe it'll work. So this is a banner. Let's try again dynamic render and see if it works. So now it works. And let me show you how you can use dynamic render in multiple of these 3 steps. Go to settings, checkout, and the nice thing here, you can test your in development checkout. You can duplicate and you can customize and see how your apps work. So now we have here checkout UI. This one is dynamic because it has this part here, and you can move it and it will appear. So the thing here, you might have only one extension to handle only this part, and here the dynamic render is most fitted, but I'm not sure because you can probably use any extension point because it will appear in the default Shopify error handling. So you probably want to have only one app extension for this, and then for custom content like dynamic render, have another extension. Let me now try to see if it works to have multiple instances. Now let's go back to checkout settings and see if we are able to have it in multiple places. And you can see the thing here, if you run dev, it is automatically saved here for the default profile. Interesting, now the predefined extension points work, but the dynamic one seems to stay stuck at the top. Might be some conflict because I have another app using it, another app, but I doubt that because I don't see any error, any information about that. Might be something temporary from Shopify, because when you go to their API, it's on unstable stage, so they might be having some issues. Now the issues with the dynamic render might be because of the unstable API that is currently, but they might fix it in the future. They will probably fix it in the future. Now let's go to what I wrote here, web workers. So these extensions work in web workers. The environment is, the web workers. If you don't know what web workers are or not, you can search on Google and search on MDN. Now let's go to the documentation on GitHub. And we are interested in Shopify Checkout. So this is the documentation for React, and this is for plain JavaScript. Let's follow React since we've covered with React examples. And I want to find the location where they explain about the global objects in the web worker, basically where you run your script. Here they are. And here it is. Web platform globals. Checkout UI extensions always run in a web worker. So you have self, reference back to the global object, console, set timeout, clear timeout, set interval, clear interval. You have the new XML HTTP request fetch, and that's kind of all. And then it explains you the environment ECMAScript 2015 in which it runs. And if you want to use an latest version, newer than this, you can use your own compilation. And that's it for the web worker. Let me actually show you something. You can open the developer tools and search for main.js, and here it will appear your code. Because this is React, this isn't the most clean code that you will see, but if you use the vanilla JavaScript way, you will see a lot of kind of the same things that you wrote there. You will see different things also if you import some packages, external packages, and they will have their bundling, so you will not see all details, but your code will be almost perfectly visible depending on what dependencies you use. If you keep it simple, you will see your code very easily. Just open the developer tools, search for main.js, and you will see. If you add debugger statements or you pause execution, it will work. And that's with the global objects and the run with the web workers. Now, how can they do better with checkout UI extensions? First, I think they will need to make the API stable, because for obvious reasons we want to have some solid foundation. Then I would encourage them to add additional extension points. So you can add, for example, in the footer and full width. And then I would encourage them to allow custom components and the usage of regular CSS. At least maybe just for your component, or that would be okay still. Because at the moment, let me show you something. I had this issue with centering text. You can center text, you can only center the region because they use align items center. That's for Flexbox. And this doesn't center, this centers actually the container and if I would inspect this, the container would be kind of like this, and it centers the container, doesn't center the text within the container. So just adding text center would make sense, and basic things like that. You can see that it's at an early stage, but for sure they will add new features, because I've seen the responses on GitHub. They're very responsive and they're open to suggestions. And if you want to write your own suggestions, you can go to this, to discussions, and go to this discussion, checkout extension feedback. Also would be nice would be to have your own JavaScript events, the ones that are available in the DOM, or the majority of them, so you could do a lot of custom things. And that's kind of my current feedback at the moment. If you enjoyed the video, liked it, subscribe, share and comment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.